Family and friends, my name is Vanessa Lee and I welcome you here today on behalf of Gladys's family to celebrate the life of a very special lady, Gladys Irene McLaughlin. Gladys's family wish to thank you for attending Gladys's service today and for your kind thoughts, gifts and wishes at this very sad and challenging time in their lives. They invite you to gather together at the conclusion of today's service back at the St Mary's Rugby League Club, located on the corner of Forrester and Baronia Roads in St Mary's, inside the Ironbark Terrace function room for some light refreshments and to talk about the special memories that each and every one of you have shared with Gladys. All of us here today extend our deepest sympathies to Gladys's family. We come together today to share their grief. Sadly, there are no words of comfort that could ever possibly cushion the pain that they are feeling with the loss of Gladys. In the event of tragically losing a loved one, it has a way of reuniting us in a way that perhaps no other life experience does. It reminds us to be thankful for each other and that there's nothing more important than our family and, of course, our friends. Gladys was born on the 17th of February 1930 in England to her parents Henry and to Gladys. A sister to Winifred, Kathleen, May, Betty, Marjorie, June and Henry. A wife to Leslie, Reginald and to Jack. A mother to John, Kathleen and Raymond. A mother-in-law to Linda and Margaret. A grandmother to Wendy, David, Jason and James, a great-grandmother to Kiara, Jared, Daniel, Sean, Matthew, Brianna, Brooke, Madison, Ryan and Campbell, and I'm sure a friend to all who knew her. Today we come together as family and friends to farewell a much-loved lady who meant so much to those who knew her. I'd now like to share with you the opening prayer of the 23rd Psalm, and it reads, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen." Family and friends, on behalf of Gladys's family, I'd like to share with you some of the wonderful memories of Gladys. And it says, Eulogy of Gladys Irene Nee Francis, written by her son, John. Gladys was born on the 17th of February 1930 and was the sixth of 7 girls and 1 boy. She was very close with her parents, Henry and Gladys Francis. However, she had a very special and close relationship with her grandfather, Charles Ernest Francis, who came to live with them after his wife Mary died. He looked after the 8 children while her parents were at work, allowing them to build a very special bond. Like many at the time, her father lied about his age so that he could join the RAF as a cook. Whilst her father was in the RAF moving from airdrome to airdrome, her mother, sister June and brother Henry would find lodgings close by, allowing the family to remain together. Her father was self-employed prior to World War II as a general dealer and kept horses. He loved horses and wanted to share this love with his children. However, he would make them ride the horses bareback. Like any good parent, he taught them about responsibility, and they would have to help clean out the stables. Cleaning out stables would not rate as any young girl's favourite activity. Gladys's first memory of her grandfather was always going everywhere with him. She had a fond memory of the time that he took her to the Marlenes, where the Civic Centre now stands at Southampton. She remembers finding half a crown, which is 25 cents in Aussie money, and with the excitement of any young girl, bought a black doll with it. The same doll would now retail at around about $50 or more. Her memories of her much-loved grandfather included that every week he used to buy 3 comics, The Dandy, The Beanio and The Film Fun. The kids were not allowed to read them until he had read them. The anticipation of watching him read and waiting their turn remained a happy memory throughout her life. He continued to buy comics up until the time that he died and used to say, "A laugh a day is good for you." He had a sweet tooth and used to buy boiled lollies, humbugs and pear drops. These were his favourites. If the grandkids were good, he would let them have one, which was a really big treat for them. Unfortunately, her last memory of her grandfather was meeting him outside St. Denny's Church in Southampton, where she borrowed 5 shillings from him. She was never able to return the loan to him, as he sadly died 2 weeks later when she was only 15 years of age. This sad event, though, taught her to never borrow money from anyone for fear that she may not be able to repay the debt, showing her strong morals and ethics. Gladys went to live with her older sister May when she was only 11 years of age, as her father went off to war and May's husband Sid was serving in the 8th Army of the Rats of Tobruk. Another strong memory of her beloved grandfather is a little harder to explain. When she was very ill in 1960, her grandfather's spirit spoke to her, giving her the love that she so needed at the time. Gladys never told anyone about this. It was found amongst the stories she wrote about her grandparents. Whether we understand her memory or not, what a beautiful special gift we believe that the man she loved so much could support her after death in such a difficult time. He was buried at South Stoneham Cemetery in Woodmill, Southampton in 1945, not far from where Gladys's daughter Kathleen would also be buried in 1949. Gladys was married 3 times, first in 1946 to Leslie Fields, who died in the February of 1977. They had 2 much-loved children together, John, born in 1947, and Kathleen, born in 1949. Sadly, Kathleen died at only 2 months of age due to suspected SIDS. Whilst Kathleen was only with us for such a short time, she was often spoken about by Gladys and was obviously still very close to her heart. She married her second husband, Reginald Houghton, in September of 1977. He brought with him his son Raymond, who completed their family. Reg sadly died of a heart attack in 1989. She met her third husband, John McLaughlin, affectionately known as Jack, on a flight back from England. Whilst they were only married in 2008, they were together for 20 years prior. Jack sadly passed in 2014. Gladys was very lucky to have had the love of 3 wonderful men and the joy of these 3 children who were the centre of her heart, John, Kathleen and Raymond. Due to her illness in 1960 and because of the very stormy relationship between her son John with his father, it was decided it best if John was sent to live with her parents, who had migrated to Sydney, Australia in 1949. A very difficult decision for any mother, but a display of love to provide the best options for her son. John came out to live in Australia under the Big Brother movement in 1961. Gladys, being the fighter she was, and against all odds, recovered from her illness. She followed her son John and migrated to Australia in 1962 with Reg and his son Raymond. While she was in Mari Kuria, home for the terminally ill, she accidentally set fire to her own bed twice whilst smoking. At one stage, her sister Betty said she only weighed 3.5 stone. Gladys, like her brother Henry, smoked cigarettes virtually her whole adult life. She believed that this is what helped her to survive her illnesses. In the late 1960s, Gladys returned to England to see her surgeon, Mr. Norris, who originally operated for a checkup. Fortunately, there was no serious problem and she was able to return home to Australia, although for the rest of her life she was concerned that cancer would return. Gladys was a very independent woman who went out to work her whole adult life up until her late 60s. Back in Southampton, she worked as a cashier, mainly at cinemas. In Australia, she was mainly self-employed as a bookkeeper. Her immediate families of Reg, Jack, John, Lynn and their children, Raymond and Margaret, were the most important things in her life, followed by her siblings and their families. From the mid-60s until about 2000, Gladys loved to travel with her family. She especially loved Fiji, where she adopted a Fijian village, and whenever she went there, she always took clothing and school supplies to give out to the Fijian families. She got to know the locals in the villages, spending time in their huts and socialising with them. She showed such a generous and kind spirit in giving to these villages. The last 5 or so years of her life were very difficult for her due to initially to her essential tremor becoming more noticeable, making for her being very self-conscious and not wanting to leave her home, followed by the onset of dementia and Jack sadly passing away in 2014. She was forced to give up her independence, which was always so very important to her, and she had to go and live in an aged care facility, first on the Sunshine Coast and then in Port Macquarie. Although the last year or so of her life was far from good, staff at Regis Hastings Manor, with the support of Ray and Margaret, made her life as comfortable as possible, for which we are eternally grateful. John, Raymond, Linda, Margaret and her grandchildren all had some wonderful times going out on picnics and days out to the Paradise Palms, Old Sydney Town, Bowral, Manly and many other places together. These are the beautiful memories we will focus on, the times where she was happy and bright and surrounded by those she loved and whom loved her. Gladys was happiest when around her family, and her influence certainly helped in the moulding of her grandchildren and gave us all great, great memories of the good times we had together. Gladys, may you rest in everlasting peace. And I'd like to thank John for putting those wonderful memories together for us all to share today, so thank you. Family and friends, I'd now like to invite forward Ray to share with us some further memories of Gladys.
Well, I have a few stories about Mum, who continually supported me and all of us. I was quite a rebellious teenager and actually left home when I was 17. I did not get on with Dad. All the time he was getting at me about my long hair and did not like the things I do. You know, it's very important things at that age. I moved to Paddington. However, Mum, being Mum, still made sure she looked after me, meeting me at the town hall most Fridays with bags of groceries and making sure I was okay, slipping me a couple of bob here and there, you know, how it goes. Mum was taken ill in the late 60s and Dad asked me to come home. I did. Mum needed to go to the doctor that looked after her in her early battle against cancer in the UK. She looked after me even then, as she would not go until I had my 21st birthday party. She said, "John had his. I'm not going. I'm not going until you have yours." While she was away was the time when Dad, John and I became close. To see the three of us trying to clean up the house when she was on her way home was actually quite comical. Mum was quite complimentary, you know. She said, "Oh, we did a good job." But she did admit sometime later that it wasn't up to her standard. Some years later, I met the love of my life, Margaret. When I told Mum I was getting married, I told her that we were only going to have a small wedding in the backyard of Margaret's parents' place. She was happy with that, but she said, "You need a bigger party. We've got to have all the family and friends." And we said, no, this is not the way it's going to happen. We're just having a small one. The wedding went off well. Our Mum invited us over to Sunday dinner. Yeah. Imagine our surprise when we arrived for Sunday dinner, or so we thought, with a street full of cars and a large tent in Mum's backyard. And a lot of people, some of you are here today. Mum was not going to be beaten. I used to also travel quite a bit with my job. One day in the mid-90s, my mum came up to me and said, "You should visit your natural mother." She had been in contact with my aunties in England who had kept in contact with my mother. And she said, "Your mother's getting old and I would hate to be without my children, or at least know how they got on. So this could be your last chance to ever see her. But remember, you're still my son," she said to me. So I did visit, which led to a meeting with my mother and gaining an understanding of what happened with my dad and my mum when they had the marriage breakup. I also met my half-brother and his family, who visited here, and met my brother John and his family. We also then travelled with my brother and his family to Austria to meet up with my mother's family, who I lived with when they broke up. This would not have happened without Mum saying, "You've got to do it." After Dad died in 1989, Mum came on a trip with Margaret and I to the UK to visit the family. And then after that, she also decided to go again on a trip for Christmas to be with Betty, May and other family for the Christmas period. On the way back, she met this lovely Irish gentleman, Jack. At first, Mum played hard to get. She can be like that. But Jack was a very patient man and won out in the end. They moved to Killarney Vale on the Central Coast and spent the next 20 years together. The first 10 years travelling, meeting Jack's mum and family in the UK, and Mum's family also, along with numerous other trips. The last 10 years being very tough for Jack with the deterioration in Mum's health. He was a saint and looked after Mum's every need until his death in 2014. Mum has been lucky with her choice in men. Mum is now free of pain and being united with her men. No doubt being pampered rotten and yelling out, "Put the kettle on." Enjoy, Mum. We will miss you and love you, Mum. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Family and friends, Gladys's family have asked if there's anyone else that has prepared a few words to share with us today, that you're more than welcome to come forward and share them with us now. Is there anyone that's prepared a few words that would like to share them with us at this time?
Thank you. As you've heard, Ray met Gladys when he was only about 13. I reckon he won the lottery by then. Glad came into his life. He had a decent meal, a stable home life, and probably the only mother's love he'd ever had. After they came to Australia, I think if Glad hadn't taken him in hand and kept him close, God knows where he would have ended up. When I joined the family, Aussies were pretty scarce in the Fields family, but Glad made sure I ate faggots and peas, stuffed hearts, and all the other gruesome things Pommy still ate in those days. It was pretty awful. Glad was a English rose through and through. No getting naturalised for her. She was a real Pommy, a real gem. The greatest thing to happen to Glad in our time was the grandchildren. She loved them to bits, and we had wonderful times going on many excursions and barbecues, and generally, as Glad said, keeping the family close. She was a very determined woman and loved to party. Right. When Glad and Reg bought their home in Tregear, they had wonderful neighbours in Colin and Rose, and they had wonderful relationship with them too. Glad loved to go to the club and play the poker machines when she was younger, and she loved the pokies so much she even had a poker machine in the house for a while there, but it wasn't the same as going to the club. She used to buy lots of things for all her family out of the poker machine money she won. She was a real drama queen most of the time, Glad, and liked nothing better than to take on relatives and friends' troubles and trying to sort them out for them. She loved to read Mills and Boon, and I think sometimes the Mills and Boon helped her to get some of it sorted out with all the drama she read in that. We had some lovely times with Glad and Jack, but sadly that insidious disease dementia crept up on her, and it was really hard for Glad. On a more poignant note, Glad never really got over the death of her daughter and talked about her more and more as she got older. I used to say to her, just be grateful you have 2 great sons, but sadly, it wasn't quite enough. Glad had a tough but great life, and I'm happy to celebrate her life, and it's a privilege to spend time with her over the years. We loved you, Glad. Good on you.
Family and friends, I'm sure you've all got your own special memories of Gladys, and I'd ask that you hold on to those memories, and perhaps at the conclusion of the service you might like to join the family back at the St Mary's Rugby League Club and share those memories with her family then. So thank you. They say that every photo holds a memory and tells a story. I'm sure many wonderful memories will come flooding back to you as we watch the slideshow of Gladys's life. the train of life. At birth, we boarded the train and met our parents, and we believed they would always travel by our side. However, at some station, our parents will step down from the train, leaving us on this journey alone. As time goes by, other people will board the train, and they will be significant. Our siblings, friends, children, and even the love of your life. Many will step down and leave a permanent vacuum. Others will go unnoticed that you don't realise that they've vacated their seats. This train ride will be full of joy, sorrow, fantasy, expectations, hellos, goodbyes, and farewells. Success consists of having a good relationship with all passengers, requiring that we give the best of ourselves. The mystery to everyone is we do not know at which station we ourselves will step down. So we must live in the best way, love, forgive, and offer the best of who we are. It is important to do this because when the time comes for us to step down and leave our seat empty, we should leave behind beautiful memories for those who will continue to travel on the train. I wish you a joyful journey on the train of life. Reap success and give lots of love. Lastly, I thank you for being one of the passengers on the train. Family and friends, for those of you who can, please be upstanding and join with me as we say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. For those of you who can, please continue to stand at this time. When tomorrow starts without me, and I am not there to see, if the sun should rise and find your eyes all filled with tears for me, I wish so much you wouldn't cry the way you did today, while thinking of the many things that we didn't get to say. I know how much you loved me as much as I loved you, and each time you think of me, well, I know you'll miss me too. But when tomorrow starts without me, please try to understand. An angel came and called my name and took me by my hand. So when tomorrow starts without me, don't think we're far apart, for every time you think of me, I'm right there in your heart. Gladys, our wonderful friend, the time has come to say goodbye. We are saddened by losing you, but ever so grateful for the time we've been able to share with you. We leave you in peace and bid you farewell. Thank you for being you. Gladys Irene McLaughlin. Family and friends, for those of you who may have brought along a floral tribute or perhaps a special gift for Gladys, or perhaps you might like to come forward and place your hand with Gladys and say your own personal farewell, I'd invite you to do so as you exit the chapel today.